dozen games on the schedule. Keep our eyes on all of those, including the headliner in B. Shaw's hometown, Oakland, the Clippers and Warriors. L.A. has lost 4 of 5 and dropped both ends of a weekend back-to-back, including a loss in New Orleans Sunday. The depleted Pelicans outshot the Clips and hit 32 free throws. The Dubs rebounded from their 7th loss of the season Saturday with a win in Minnesota Sunday. Draymond Green had 24 as Golden State avoided its first 2-game losing streak. Tonight, the champs shoot for a 4-game sweep of the Clippers, although LA has held fourth-quarter leads in 2 of their 3 meetings, and each was decided by 7 or fewer points. Something else to keep an eye on, the Splash Brothers haven't been super splashy their last 2 games. Both Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are shooting well below their usual numbers, and both have a negative plus-minus over that admittedly very small sample. But that they and the rest of the Dubs are thinking big picture, including chasing the Bulls' wins record.
You know, you have to go 10-2, I think is the mark. So it's kind of common knowledge for everybody right now. And
that would explain it.
I think 4 games up in the loss column for that #1 seed. So that's the driving force right now. But going 10-2 for us that's kind of on pace what we've been doing all season. So we want to. So for us, we don't want to limp into the playoffs.
Absolutely not, but any time there is a down stretch for this team, they're so heavily scrutinized because of their record, and rightfully so at this point. Everyone wants to find the antidote to what the Warriors are doing. And what we've seen a couple of times in the last 2 games by the Timberwolves and the Spurs is a lot of trapping of Steph Curry. Some teams have tried it over the course of the season. They both did a lot of it with some success. Is this the thing?
I think, you know, in the NBA, when Popovich has some success with something, everyone else emulates it. And I thought San Antonio had a lot of success in terms of running Curry off the 3-point line, challenging his shots, and making him a driver. Even when they switched out on him, you know, they forced him to go to the basket. If 25% of their points are coming from the 3-point line, they're saying they're going to take that away. And I think Minnesota, the next game, tried to do the same thing. Now, that being said, they still won the basketball game.
Right.
So, you know, you can take away Curry, you can take away Thompson, but they're still good enough to win the basketball game, and they win the basketball game. So going, you know, these next 10 to 12 games, the thing to look for is, you know, this is a copycat league. Will other people try to emulate that strategy?
And we've seen teams do this before, and what often happens is that Draymond Green or Andrew Bogut winds up with a 3-2 in front of them. You get a lob or a corner 3, but doesn't that have to be mission #1, is to limit Steph Curry's 3-point opportunities when you're going into a game with these guys?
Well, it definitely does. You want to keep his attempts down, but I don't think that you'll see that, you know, the way he shot the ball the last couple of games, see that continue. He just shoots it too well. You know, you got to take into account the fact that they played the night before against Dallas. 2 of their 5 best facilitators and playmakers, and Iguodala and Andrew Bogut, didn't play in that game as well. You know, so that had something to do with it also. And I also think Harrison Barnes has to play better than he's been playing, especially in the absence of Iguodala.
Bogut, by the way, is questionable tonight because of a toe injury that's cost him a couple of games. Iguodala is out. He's had a sprained left ankle. There probably is no one single answer for Steph Curry, but 3 of 21 from 3-point range over his last 2. If you're a coach, you got to look into whatever happened.
Yeah, but you also have to worry about his next 24. You know, because the downstretch, you know, we have to redefine what that is for a team that's played as well as the Warriors have all year, and for guys who have shot as well as Steph and Klay have for this entire season. I thought San Antonio's strategy was fantastic, but I also thought they missed a lot of shots that they normally make. Tough shots, shots with a hand in their face, but shots that normally go down. I don't think you can count on your strategy alone. You have to be flexible and probably have a plan B, C, and D when you're talking about these guys. Because the next time you see them, if they're making those shots, then what do you do if you're San Antonio? I mean, it becomes a much different monster when they have a full complement of guys and their main 2 guys are hitting their shots.
Well, they'll face a Clipper team tonight that's in pretty good position in the Western Conference, but not playing especially well. And who knows, again, people are looking for things. Maybe this is the time when Blake Griffin's absence finally catches up to them now, but they've lost 4 of their last 5, and you see what what the defense is doing, or more accurately, not doing here over this stretch, Brian.
Yeah, you know, and that's where you see the most slippage. You know, this time of year, you don't get a lot of practice time. And so some of the things that they're probably seeing on film, they're not able to go out on the floor and correct because of the lack of practice time. But, you know, San Antonio, as well as Golden State, have been able to play very consistently all season long because of their defense. And that's where, if the Clippers want to, you know, reach their capabilities, they're going to have to be more consistent on the defensive end.
Still don't know when Griffin is coming back. There's still no firm timeline for his return. Doc Rivers has been saying he believes he'll be back before the end of the regular season. But the longer this drags out, the more the questions will persist, obviously. And at some point, they need him back for 5, 10 games before it's all over.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to remember he has the 4 games on the floor with him again. He's been gone for so long. There are guys who weren't maybe playing as much in the rotation when he went out that are now. They need to have some kind of transition time to get comfortable with Blake back on the floor. And it can't be your first round series. It can't be games 1 and 2 of your first round series when you finally get comfortable. It needs to be before that.
You guys have both been coaches in this league. Tell me, how long do you have to have, well, I guess you don't get a choice, but optimally, how long do you need Griffin back at minimum before the playoffs begin to feel comfortable about his return?
Well, you'd like to have him at least, you know, 5 or 6 games. You've played with him, you know, as a player. You've had years of playing with him before in terms of playoff experience and everything else. So you kind of know his game. The coaches know his game. So I think for Blake, he's got to find out and get his sea legs underneath him in terms of he's got to get his stamina, he's got to get that burn, he's got to get winded. You know, those are things that he's going to have to work on in terms of his timing, shooting. All that will come back. You know, so you don't worry about that. But, you know, again, it's just his stamina, his game conditioning is one thing, being in shape, you know, riding a bike and, you know, health club shape, but there's another thing in terms of basketball shape, and he's got to get back in that.
I was going to ask you about that as well. It's a broken hand. He can do some cardio work, obviously. How big of a difference is there between gym shape, as Zeke put it, and game shape for a player returning?
Well, it's a big difference because of all the adrenaline that goes into playing a game, and then that actual contact that you're getting, you know, from your opponent. So I would agree about 5 games, but understand that he's going to be practicing, you know, long before he actually steps out there on the floor. And I think that it's a situation where where the team's been successful in his absence, and kind of just figure out where he needs to fit in, as opposed to the team having to get used to him. He has to get used to where he needs to fit and figure out where he can help, you know, where they've been lacking in the last week or so.
What should the post-injury Griffin look like?
Well, like, I think he's going to be rusty. His timing is going to be off.
But in terms of role, you talked about the changes, the things that have happened in his absence. What should his role be, or how should it change when he returns?
Well, I think it should be more of a defensive emphasis, because that's the area that they're slipping in right now. So I think that he needs to look at how he can make an impact on that end of the floor first. Rebounding, because their rebounding has gone down. As well as, you know, he's also he's probably the next best facilitator on their team behind Chris Paul. You know, he gets rebounds, he busts out, and I believe he averages about 5 assists a game. And so that's something that they've been missing. And even though they've been successful while he's been out, after a while it is going to take its toll, and it's going to weigh on the rest of the team because they haven't had that.